I did the steroids. I did them. I did a lot of them. We had access to them every day, whether it be from somewhere in a gym or go to Mexico to get them, or bring them back from England, or bring them back from Germany when we were overseas. Or we had doctors. There was a Canadian doctor that gave them to us in Canada, multiple dosages. It was why he's not in prison, I do not know. There was at least, let me count, at least 8 or 10 doctors across America that were giving them to us. But at that point, now I'm going back to a time where the doctors could prescribe them to us. But I mean, even today, doctors can prescribe steroids to people. There is steroid treatment. My mother was given steroids for cancer treatment. She was given this stuff called Decadurabolin, which I was buying for $10 a bottle, and her cancer doctor was charging her $60 a bottle. Now this is 30 years ago. I mean, I said, Mom, it's the same stuff. I can give you the shot myself. She believed in her doctor as opposed to, well, she's not around anymore. But there again, we took them. I did. Is it as prevalent today? I think it's not so much in the open today. We were pretty much open about it. In fact, we were so open about it that at one time they had a meeting with us and says, look, fellas, we got to clean this thing up. You've got to stop leaving your syringes laying around. Because guys, what guys would do, they don't have very many of these anymore. The old toilets where you take the top off, the guys would drop the syringes down in there. Now, unless the maintenance man had to come in and perform some maintenance, there might be some needles laying around in those toilets somewhere in America today. But they said, you got to stop doing that. We're getting trouble from the buildings, and you know, it's a health issue now, and we just can't have it anymore. So the fellas then had to go more underground.
Well, I came in there in June of 1985, and there was cocaine and steroids were abundant. And I can truthfully say that I've never smoked a cigarette, marijuana, or tobacco. I've never taken a drug, aspirin or otherwise, up until February of 1989, when I got the gimmick as the genius, and I got about a month off. I got on Decadurabolin, and then when I came to the my first shot, I took my shirt off, and I'd been in the sunbed, and took my shirt off, oiled up, and everybody said, "Holy, what the hell happened to you?" And never mind, we know what happened. Whoa! And everybody said, "Look at Lanny's muscles." And everybody came in the room, you know, and trust me, we had the warlord and barbarian flipping over me, and that's like ridiculous because...
Not to mention the sexual aspects of the steroid.
The sexual aspects? Well, but what happened was, after the Hulk Hogan match was Halloween of 1989, I realized that I had gone to the very top, and I was not going to live there. I was just going to, like, Monopoly game, in jail or just visiting. I was just visiting. And I took a shower, looked down at myself, and I saw my testicular atrophy. And I thought to myself, it might be a good idea to cut my losses right now. And I pulled out that needle, and within 2 months, my muscles were all gone.
And was WWE doing steroid testing at that time at all?
No.
Because you mentioned, I've seen you mention in previous interviews that you think it's possible that Shamrock could have been on something during your...
Possible? Only reason I laugh about that, there's no possibility whatsoever. I mean, I've been around athletics my entire life. I know what a man and a woman can build naturally, and I know what they can build unnaturally. If you just look at the world of bodybuilding, you look at natural bodybuilders and you look at professional level bodybuilders. These natural bodybuilders look like 98-pound weaklings compared to these professional level bodybuilders.
We did TV in Allentown, Pennsylvania every 3 weeks. They had a doctor there that would give you any steroid you want. I mean, he carried it. You didn't know prescription, nothing. He had a big bag. Anybody want this? Just like this. Just like this. Yeah. I think that doctor got in trouble back with Hogan and them.
Yeah, in the early 90s.
Yeah, he got in trouble. But they did it right there in the dressing room. Everything was done in the dressing room.
Someone wanted me to ask you, you don't have to answer this, but what was the best steroid cycle you ever did? Because you know,
I never did nothing but Hannibals.
Hannibals, okay.
That's all I did. I didn't like injectables. I always took the pills because I started with. I took what they call Hannibals, and I would take. The first week I take 1 a day. The second week I take 2 a day. The third week 3 a day, and then the fourth week I take 4 a day. And I take 4 a day for 2 weeks, and then I stop.
The steroids at the time early in my career, I took them a little bit in the off season of football, not in season, and then in my wrestling career I actually would go on a 8 or 12 week cycle, then go off for 8 or 12 weeks. I was, contrary to popular opinion, I had a good foundation of football and powerlifting and working out, and I always had kind of a from high school on, I was kind of known, my calling card was my physique, so a lot of that was genetics. So I would, back in that day, it was so common back then that when I started taking the PEDs, they weren't even a classified substance really at the time.
Didn't start till 1990 or so.
Yeah, so we were looked at as a strength athlete, as like a training supplement. But my agent, getting back to Tom Haney, and my background with Don Reinhardt, a world-class powerlifter, they always mentored me to do, if you're going to do it, get your blood work done, make sure you cycle on, cycle off. So I was a user of PEDs, and looking back now, because of where did you abuse steroids? Well, if you take any illicit drug, I look at it, there's a potential abuse. But if there was a way back then to monitor it, I did do that. So that's kind of was my experience. Towards the end of my career, I switched over to basic, what you would term now, the last 4 or 5 years of my wrestling, which was, many people thought where I really got leaner and maybe had my best look. I was on what you would call an anti-aging type supplementation, PED was, which a lot of the baseball players started doing, and football players. Back then, in the late 90s, a little bit of growth hormone, like basically anti-aging amount, even though I wasn't that old then. You take a little bit of growth hormone, a little bit of testosterone, that was it.
Keep on trying, don't give up. That's the only advice I gave him, as a keep on trying and don't give up. And so, sure enough, obviously, he became Hulk Hogan.
So he had already been taking steroids before he ever got into the pro wrestling?
Oh, he told me he'd been taking steroids for 1 full year at the time I met him. And I had been taking steroids for 5 years before I started wrestling in mid-60s. So there was nothing wrong with that. The people that have died from complications of steroid use and other drug use in pro wrestling is almost beyond belief. It's almost beyond belief. So many drug-related deaths in pro wrestling, for it to have ended up like this, it's tragic.
So for the people that claim that this is all just because you've started taking steroids, it's really not.
No, I take tests. I mean, I'm prescribed tests because I'm 55, but that in and of itself is not it. I wish it was. I wish that the common misconception is that you could just take a magic pill and then all of a sudden you could, like on TV, suddenly go like this. You can't. You've got to actually put in the work. And I train differently, I eat differently, and I train harder than I've ever done before. And I enjoy it because it's a different way of training. and that's what's really led to the development. If I had, years before, I had taken testosterone for a very short time because I had suffered from, and I don't really talk about it in public, but I had suffered from 2 strokes from a head injury, and I had atrophy down the entire side of my body, and I told the doctor, I said, what can I do to help that? He said, well, they'll probably prescribe you steroids. So I went to the doctor, they refused to do it, so I started to self-medicate to try to help to bring that part of me back. I never had that kind of development because I didn't do a lot of compound movements, didn't utilize my lower body, didn't train the way I train now. And that, regardless of what people might think, is really what has caused the change, is the fact that I train completely different than what I've ever done before. And I utilize my legs more than I have ever done.